Appreciate it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we ask that you be with us today as we deliberate the business of the county. Help us, Lord, to always keep in mind the best interests of those that we represent and your will for those, for your children. Lord, we ask all these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Have you gentlemen had a chance to look at the minutes for March 26th of 2024?
Yes, sir. I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes.
I did. I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And Tony, what do you have for us today?
Well, I passed out to all of you the animal shelter report submitted by Cindy Heiser. I also gave one to the press. You should have that in front of you for consideration of adoption.
I'm glad that she's putting totals down at the bottom. That makes it a little easier. So,
Yep. There was a couple questions she had, but I told her to wait until Mark and Clayton go through that language on that contract
okay.
that they're working on, because, you know, what that says, what she does could be dependent on that, so.
We had, and I don't, just kind of a reminder, we did meet with them, and Tony and Bree and Mark and Mike and Cindy Heiser a few weeks ago. And so I don't know if there's any progress on that contract for them.
Yeah, I think Clayton's working on that.
Okay, good. So, but yeah, I thought that was a good meeting, and there were some things that, did look like they needed to be amended, so.
Yeah, I think we just want to be fair with them.
Yeah,
They're doing great work for us. We want to be fair.
yeah, okay. All right, I'd take a motion to enter that into record.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Ed?
I also put in front of you, submitted by Tad Smarter, the animal control report, total mileage of 355 miles. I also handed that out to the press for consideration.
Okay, any questions on that? Not, I'd entertain the same motion.
Motion to accept the report.
Second.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
And then we have the payroll AP claims, which are the benefits and so forth, as you know. And the amount of the payroll AP claims is $496,160.76, $496,160.76.
Okay, any questions on that?
Make a motion. We accept AP claims.
Okay. Thank you.
And next, you already want me to go on, Stan? Or you want me to wait?
Yeah, that's fine. Just for the record, I'll vote in favor of that also.
Next, we have the Allied monthly claim, and that's in the amount of $68,184.71. That is for April, and that is the Allied monthly claims.
All right.
Medical.
Hmm?
Is that all medical?
That
Administration.
is the administrative cost.
Okay, any questions on that?
Nope. I'll make a motion. We accept that.
Second.
Motion carries.
And now we have, Eric, this is where we have the weekly health insurance claims. This is all medical, I verified claimants. And the amount is $2,812.53. That's a number we can live with.
Wow.
There was no
Very good.
fixed costs, no voids or anything, just $2,812.53.
Very good.
The motion we accept.
2008-12.
$2,812.53.
I'll second that motion.
All right, motion carries. Thank
And I
you.
believe.
We had healthy people this time.
Apparently so. Okay, the last thing I have, I emailed all of you, scanned and emailed the clerk monthly report Ms. Shelley had brought over.
Yeah.
So we would just need, again, a motion just to enter that into the record.
Shelley is here. Did you have anything to speak to your report at all, or?
No.
No, okay. All right.
No,
Maybe
she
you
does
had a
not.
chance to look at that?
Make a motion, we accept it.
I did. I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
That is all that I have on mine.
All right. County engineer, Nate, what all do you have for us today? Good morning, good morning.
Kind of a short list today, which is good. Just kind of updating you on some small structures. I'm working on the plan for the small structures for next year. I believe I might have some funds left over in bridge construction this year, so I might try to buy a couple of those. So I'm trying to go through hydraulically and make sure that those work. And then I'll have to come before Drainage Board to get approval on those as well. But before I finalize the sizing, I've been making some updates there. I've actually downloaded a software through Federal Highway that was free, and I'm using that to double check some sizing. That's actually been very good. Program that's actually helped me kind of bring some sizes down a little bit, so that'll save us some money. And it's actually found an issue with another one, so I have to make one bigger, so it's all right.
So we had one that was
Points of-
undersized? and-
Yeah, so it's just kind of depending on the different modeling that you use, it's the software you have. So this is actually it's a little more robust as far as program than what I've been using, but and certainly I've got the time and the ability to do that. So thank you for that, and I think I'll be a good system to use.
So if we'd go and look at it today, the water would be backed up?
Yeah, right now, well, I haven't put them in wrong. That's always, I'll leave that for next year. We'll put them in wrong.
All right.
No. Bridge Asset Management Plan, I have submitted a plan to NDOT for federal highway approval. So Michael Kales with NDOT has been the point of contact. So I've developed kind of a larger plan. This is sort of got a copy of it here, is a reduced plan of every bridge inventory, condition rating, and then about 4 points of either maintenance rehab or replacement that we're looking at. So that has been submitted to the state for their approval. With the state and federal approval, then many lesser, rather than just spending the money for replacement bridges, we could actually seek federal funds for major rehabs or preventative maintenance type projects. So I could go through and do a large group of, say, guardrail replacement or superstructure or overlays. And as we've always had the conversations before about buggy traffic on concrete decks, wearing away, we may have to go to a faster replacement of those decks. Well, if I could seek federal funds and group those projects, then it'll actually be cost effective for us or can be. So that's sort of a process that I'm in. I'm hoping to hear some information back from the state by the end of this month. That would be really good news for us on our bridges overall. That said, kind of leading into the next item is USI Consultants. I met with Brandon Arnold. He's one of their bridge department managers. He was now kind of a signatory engineer on 3 of the projects that we have with USI, kind of reviewing bridges 5, 58, 142, 155. 58 is out to bid currently. I've got a number of different bidders looking at that one, but the other 3 have got a bid on hold or kind of moving around as far as what I want to fit these in. I was looking at federal funds for 2 of those projects, and it just isn't going to work because of the scale of the projects, the locations of the road, what we were going to deal with. So following that meeting, I am having USI proceed with the design as we have it. The money is in the budget to complete those projects. So I'm going to have them take those projects to essentially about 95% complete. Their schedule is actually baked into the Bridge Asset Management Plan, which is why these kind of 2 are tied together. I wanted to know when they could be done and how we were going to fund these to where I was going to propose fitting them in. Unfortunately, it's not going to be this year and it's not going to be next year. These projects may kind of linger over about a 2 or even 3-year period. It just comes down to how successful we are with community crossings applications.
So it still makes sense to have that much of the design work done?
It does in this case. The risk of the standards changing on these, because 2 of these are preventative maintenance type projects with the overlay, The NDOT's not likely going to change any standard design that we would need. Since I'm not seeking federal funds on those, I also don't have really a major issue with that. The biggest item I've had with USI is to try to limit the scope to try to cut the cost down. One of these projects is over $750,000 as a preventative maintenance job. That's really an odd scale for us because of how much, where our budget is. I really need to have a grant tied to these projects. And my biggest struggle is kind of finding a way to align these projects that are currently in the works and then still look at other needs within the county. So I'm certainly doing my best to try to find spots for it. So far, we've been very successful with obviously Bridge 27. I'm hopeful going into the end of this year and into next year that we can seek the funding and find funding for a handful of these projects. So otherwise, it just kind of delays the process. So other than that, that's just kind of an update. If you want to see the plan or kind of go through this individually, what we're going to do, the next major step at this point, obviously, is going to be bridge inspections. That's going to happen in May and June of this year. Once that's done, probably in August, there'll be a shuffling of condition ratings. So I'll go through and make sure we make updates on that, and then I'll present that to you.
And then that's on this report?
That's currently, that is the current plan there. So
Can I ask a stupid question on this?
absolutely.
And you understand what all these ratings mean and what all the mnemonics mean. Is there any type of index to explain to me? You know, like say if
Sure.
we have a deck rating, super rating,
Yep.
substantive rating, you know, the 7, I assume that's a 7 out of 10, but I don't know that.
All right.
Just kind of things like
So-
that to where I can read this.
Absolutely. So
say-
on that numeric scale, you're looking at from a 1 to an 8 rating. So an 8 is essentially perfect from their rating. So there's no noticeable visible issues with it. As you start going down that scale, there are 3 categories at the top that are bolded, 58, 59, and 60. Those 3 ratings, if any condition is a 4 or less, that bridge becomes eligible for replacement with federal funds.
But I mean,
So once you get down to a 4, that's where you start to have issues out of that 8-point scale.
I guess what I'm saying is there any kind of a written index, you know, for some of, you know, like on structured type, it gives a 5, a 2, a 6, if there was some kind of a written index to where I could look at this and say, oh, I'm not sure what that 5 means. I could go to a written index.
That's a little more complex.
Okay,
So if you want to know what a 4 is on deck wearing surface, that's part of the bridge inspection manual within that, which is probably about a 1,000-page manual.
okay.
So that's what you're paying the consultants about $300,000 a year or for a 4-year contract to do. So they do the inspection reviews for from a 10,000-foot view. What you're going to want to look at, and that's why I color coded those. There's a conditional code rating.
So the ones that you've color coded, that's the
Yep.
ones that I need to look at.
As they get closer to that orange and red, those are the ones we're watching for. If it's all green, then we're in very good shape with that. So
Got it.
what you're going to look for is within this conditional rating is these yellows and oranges. Anything that's red is something that we're going to try to work with and address in the plan.
Excellent, okay.
Also, you can look at, and this is kind of less used, is the sufficiency rating to the right before the first bullet line. That is on a 100-point scale. So, and that essentially takes all the different ratings and kind of cooks it all together. So that's kind of the stew of all of it. So a higher rating, great. As that number gets lower and lower, then that kind of reflects all the other conditions within the bridge. The state no longer really uses the sufficiency rating because it can be skewed by one bad number that really doesn't reflect the structural.
So as I look at the bottom of the column and it's got a sufficiency rating average of 91.4, that's could be skewed by one bad bridge.
You could have one bad bridge, or it's because you've got a lot of very good bridges. I use that to try to find that average because then you can say, okay, yes, this bridge is below that average significantly or
Gotcha.
above others within your inventory.
Okay.
So that's just something that I put together internally for the purposes of trying to compare structure to structure. So if I'm going to seek funding on a bridge, I want to give you an indication of why do we care? Well, this is significantly outside the norm for other bridges of its type within the county. If you got residents asking why won't you look at this bridge? Well, because it is very much within our inventory, and here's the condition ratings that we have across the board. So
Okay.
this gives a very defensible purpose as far as how we're tackling these projects.
As far as how our plan is.
Yep, and
Is an
and it
actual
shows-
plan and not a,
Yep, it's why the
Yes, yeah.
Cume Bridge Fund is where it's at and why we're doing what we need to, and certainly there's need. I mean, we've got a very good inventory, but looking at what is in the inventory, it's a very expensive asset across the board and across the county, so that's why you need to lay out these projects like we are. So,
well, and like we've always said, if we don't take care of our own bridges, nobody else is going to.
no, not at all.
All right. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
All right. Paul, are you here for Brad today? Okay.
What's going on today? Just some updates.
Okay.
Just some public service announcement this morning with the high water and stuff. Had a few accidents out there. People just not driving. I don't have enough signs to put on all the water that's on all the roads. So, I mean, they just have to drive.
Sheriff, have you had to do any rescues this morning with the high
We've
water?
had two issues, one PI crash, rollover to water on 200 East. And that was the second one this morning already. People just have to slow down. That's all there is to it. I mean, there's water everywhere right now. People have to slow down.
Okay.
It's crossing the road places that it doesn't normally unless we get rain like this. So just take your time. Most of the barricades that we put out on the roads, most of those are out. I think 400 West is still open, but I think all the rest of our locations are closed. So, and there's more coming. So I assume that 4 West will be closed also here by the end of the day or by morning.
And that's 4 West
4
at,
West, south of 700, between 750 and 800.
Just south of the river.
So, yeah, right at the
yeah,
river.
okay.
And three West, same place at the river, 150 at the river.
You need to get some smudge pots out of storage and light them up. Maybe not.
Yeah.
As long as you're gonna collect them afterwards.
There you go. Thanks, Dave.
And fill them, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
150 east or west, 150.
150 West.
West, okay. Is 300 west closed?
Yes.
Shut it down.
Yes, yes, sir. Yep. Another update, the guys are still hauling stone on the same roads. Probably another week or so we'll be done. Weather like this, I pulled them all off to go out and try to get as much water off the road as we can, make sure the basins are cleaned off so the water is gonna drain as quick as it can, so. One last thing that I have for you is, as of this morning, we have 500 buggy plates that we've sold so far. Fun fact.
Out of an anticipated number.
2,700 was last year, I think. So
Okay. And they've got up until
we got until May 15th.
May 15th. Okay. All right.
And then Shelley came in this morning. She had some questions about using the highway department, so I'll let her speak on that.
Okay.
I wasn't aware Brad wasn't going to be here today. I sent him an email this morning and heard back, but he was aware of this fact because I always pester him. Every year, well, especially in a heavy-duty election, we require the assistance of the highway department workers to help load onto our trucks. And so we're going to have 2 U-Haul trucks. I think I kind of explained that. So it's going to be the Monday before election. If they'd be willing to help us load those trucks, that's the only assistance that we really require of them at this time to do that, is just to load.
Fantastic. So you're good with that? And guys are good with
It's
that?
going to cost them pizza and stuff like that. But other than that, it should be fine.
I can give you a deal on the pizza. Give you a deal.
Okay.
But she's paying for them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So-
No, I appreciate the cooperation. That's great. Very good.
Hey, Shelley, is this just for the primary or for both elections in November
You
also?
know what, can we do that so I don't have to come back for the general as well?
I'm certainly fine with
Oh, I am
that.
too. Absolutely.
Now, do they help you just to get them out or do you put them away then also?
That's the struggle. Now, only because it's during the day that they're allowed to do so. They come over to the courthouse and they'll load on the trucks, and that's it during their work time. So it'd be both for the primary and the general. But I usually have to have my voting equipment workers, which are separate, to help unload and at Tuesday night and all of that. Well, and the vote centers and all of that. So it's a whole different kind of.
Well, and the machines are gonna be heavier to lift and load and stuff this year than probably,
It's been fun.
yeah,
So,
so.
but we'll have better organized and
Good. That's good.
where it needs to go in the truck.
That's
So,
good.
All right,
all right.
well, good,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
And that's all I had as well.
All right, any questions for Paul? All right,
Thank you, Jim.
all right. And Rick said he wasn't sure if he was gonna be able to be here today, so it doesn't look like he is. Ed is not here today. I think, he's up at the hospital with Kate, I think. And so he's got a busy season coming up here. Okay, Michelle.
Glad I came early. I
Doesn't happen very often, does it?
Yeah, that's right. I thought maybe you'd drive one of your little vans in here.
They're all busy, I can't.
Good.
It is good. Wait till you guys see the numbers.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I got stuff for you guys. Here's the stuff I need signed. I marked it, who's who.
Is it, he can just sign it later sometimes, and sign it back to us.
Yeah, I can send it to you today. That's okay. Yeah. So.
Boy, look at all those employment trips.
I know. Look at that. I mean, we didn't have that before. So first quarter was awesome. I think when I came at the end of January, we got 107 in January, and then look how much it's increased since then. Almost 400 in February and March. So,
Now, why is the medical down from last year?
you know, I don't know.
I need to
I
get
know in
resolution.
January, a lot of our seniors weren't going out, but I don't know why the medical
Was,
is
was
down.
it because now there's a charge?
Well, because the seniors are still donations, so it wouldn't affect
Oh.
their, I'm not sure why the medical trips are down. It could be that we're charging the $1 a mile for out of the county, which would maybe be some of the lower medical trips.
Right.
But the 3B trips, which is our senior 16 over that we've been serving for almost 51 years, are pretty well comparable. And we're not doing Medicaid anymore, but I mean, our trips are up 350 from last year at this time, which is great, which is pretty much all those employment trips. And then if you look at the backside, we're up on our ridership as well. So we're really hitting the employment sector of the adults. Increasing, seniors pretty well stayed the same. And then as far as the public fare income, I mean, we've never really had an income before, so this is nice to be able to not be at a deficit almost 3 times the amount collected since we went public. So it's been a huge blessing.
So where, as far as with, budget projections, where does that 967150 fall?
We're doing, I mean, as far as our first quarter, I didn't pull the profit and loss, but that definitely helps
Good,
cover the amount of expense given those trips. So
good.
a big difference than years past where we were just donations and just getting what we could. Now we're actually getting the fare, regularly. So that's been great. I had
Think everything is signed.
awesome for both you guys.
Here's the mark that I signed it.
Okay, so I just need to, okay, so I'm in the process. I didn't realize that every year, when I reapply for public transportation, I have to watch the 30 videos, do the 6 weeks.
Isn't that wonderful?
I didn't realize that. So that's great. So I do have some documents that Mark and Tony signed, so I do have a resolution that I need to get approved from you guys. It's just for the pass-through again for next year. I feel like we just did this, so I don't even think you have to sign it. We just need to make a motion to approve it.
2024-4
And it's just for the,
for the grant application
And
process.
you've looked at this also, Mark?
What's that? That resolution? Yeah, it's just a resolution approving the.
yeah. Do you think I need to have them acknowledge these in the meeting, like for meeting minutes?
That would probably be a Mark question. Well, they're gonna approve the resolution, that's gonna be in the minutes.
Takes care of all of it.
Yep, and,
Will the resolution cover all of this then, you think, or should we do a
well,
separate
we'll do a motion to adopt the resolution and a motion to approve
these?
those applications.
Okay.
Or it's just the applications?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So I would say first, you need a motion to approve the grant applications for, is it fiscal year 24,
25 then.
25? Is that the resolution you're?
That's the
We're gonna address that next, but they need a motion.
But now it's for all those.
Yes, need a
Okay.
motion to approve.
Should I list them, what they are, or what,
Yeah, for the record, yeah.
for the record? So that it's a pass-through agreement, a certification of use of capital equipment, an FTA certifications and assurances, local financial certification and assurances, and special labor warranty, and I'll scan them and send them all back to you. Tony.
Yeah, just scan them and send them to, because we'll need them in the record.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
And then he can make sure he gets the wording right. But gentlemen, do you have any questions about approving those applications?
These are ones that we've approved previously, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems like a couple months ago.
Make motion to approve all the noted policies.
Applications.
Or application.
All right, I'd vote in favor of that also.
All right.
Update on the garage.
We need a motion to approve this resolution
Yes,
too.
please.
Let me make a motion to approve resolution 2024-4 regarding the transportation.
Is there a short title on there at all, Steve?
Resolution authorizing the filing of a calendar year 2025 application for a grant under section 5311, 5339 of the Federal Transit Act as amended. I'll make a motion to support that resolution.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, I'll vote in favor of that also. All right.
And where we're at,
The grants come from.
NDOT. There are 5311 grants through NDOT.
There are 5 grants.
Well, it's one grant, but it has the 5 parts.
Okay.
Yeah. We're working on the trusses to get approved so we can apply for state design release for the garage. So I'm shooting to have that done by September if possible. Maybe we can hit the next season's cold.
Excellent. So so there won't be any building started this year? Or you say you're looking,
I'm looking to have everything built by September.
built by September?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
good,
hoping,
good.
yeah.
I thought you were looking
I
at
think we're really
trusses.
close to be able to get ready to submit state design release. The architect needed something with the trusses, so Martin was helping me with that.
Michelle, who are you working with? Who's the architect you're working with on that?
Frankfurt.
Good.
They have done some work with for the merit.
Good.
Yeah,
I'm comfortable with those guys. It's
Yeah.
great.
they've been great to work with. Other than that, things are going really well, picking up trips every day, every month, busier than the month before, so. Helping a lot of people.
I kind of missed that. Who'd you say the contract?
Pranger, or the architect is the Pranger Group.
Very
Josh
good.
Pranger.
Yeah, I think they're a good company.
I agree. I've had nothing but great things to say about it.
Michelle, when do you see yourself running out of capacity?
Like needing additional vehicles.
Yes.
I'm actually, part of this grant is I'm applying for another small transit, but
Okay.
I mean, we can only, currently, I mean, we've got pretty well all the vehicles running all the time. So I would say.
That was my question, is are you pretty much at capacity now?
We are. And I'm hiring another driver. So I think once it even gets warmer and the word gets out, we're even going to be busier.
Sure.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it's been kind of a soft opening or a soft rollout. I appreciate that, but I wondered, as that softness goes away when you're gonna hit the wall.
Right. So, I mean, and, part of NDOT, with us going 5311, we can apply for these 5339 funds that NDOT will pitch in 80% and we'll pitch in 20. So our 20% for that small vehicle, I think, is 24,000. So I'll use the CDIP money to help cover that. That I won't have that until next year. I mean, it takes a whole year and a half to get a vehicle, but
Do we have estimates on that, on the new building?
not yet, because I was waiting for the design release.
Because once you get the design release and you have an estimate, that's gonna trigger us to take a new look at the seated allotment
That would be
and
awesome.
see if we can help you with that building.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what we had discussed
Yep.
That would be
before,
great.
anyway, so.
So I don't empty out our entire savings. 'Cause
But I
I
mean,
just,
that was kind of our holdup. It's like, you know, we're not gonna do any changes until we get that.
no, that'd be great. So I think I'd have to have so many bids then, right? Once I get the plans for the garage, then I will open it up to the public.
I don't know, Mark, is that for her, does she need to get the 3 bids also for?
For the construction? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay,
yep, I'll help you with that.
thank you.
So,
I appreciate the support. Things are going really well. So.
well, and I appreciate Mark Lynn working with you, and I know, Mark, you've been helping her also, so I appreciate that. And
Yep, thank you.
How many vehicles do you have now?
7.
7 vehicles. Okay, the garage will be behind the Merit Center?
Will be,
Okay,
yeah.
Have you seen it out and about?
Oh, yeah.
Attractive.
Very
Yeah.
attractive.
So, and that, yeah. we'll
Or
be
down
sending-
south and that's Good.
So to fill out the application, there's 30 videos I have to watch.
You have to do that every year.
And then the application takes 6 weeks. I started with.
All right, anything else, Michelle, or anything else for Michelle?
Nope.
All right.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for all the work. All right. Mr. LeBlanc, would you like to come up?
Just to see what it says and tell me what we need to do.
Good morning.
Good morning.
While we're here, is there a way to get an update on the opioid settlement? We had requested the release of the other half of the funding.
Yeah, I think we approved that last week, so I don't know from the auditor's standpoint.
It was approved last week. Matter of fact, you should be getting that on the next claim cycle.
So that would be,
If you haven't already gotten it, it would be April 10th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. So wanted to give a quick bullet point list update of our accomplishments as we come here today to just let you know what we are going to propose for future plans for Crossroads and see if the county would be willing to assist us with that. So less than a year ago, in April, we started Crossroads with $100 in the bank. We began fundraising. We raised funds in our June fundraiser of $40,000. A church donated another $40,000. And since then, we've been doing good work trying to get brick and mortar office space and housing in the community. It's been a struggle here and there, but we are thankful that we have made progress through it. We opened the new office building at the Burn Shop, South Burn. I became the first CAPRC, Certified Addiction Peer Recovery Counselor Coach, registered in Adams County. We recently hired Summer Shaneyfeld, who became the first female CAPRC registered in Adams County. So we are providing coaching services to people throughout the week. We have an average of 40 plus individuals walking through our doors every week. We average 20 plus individuals just in our weekly recovery groups that we hold throughout the week. We opened the first men's recovery home in March with 3 men residing in it now, and we anticipate opening the first women's home next month in May if all goes according to plan. So those are some good updates, tangible things that we've gotten in place. But I also wanted to mention some other needs that we have helped people with. There was a guy named Don who came through our doors and he had nothing. He had just come out of Adams County Jail. We helped him get food stamps, health insurance, a government phone, food, clothing, helped to build his resume, put in job applications, and he is currently employed in Decatur. We had a Cody call us from the Fort Wayne homeless shelter. We got him an apartment in Bern, helped furnish it, and he is now working full-time at Poseidon in Bern for $25 an hour. We had a Shane come to us from a healthcare assisted living program where he was only getting $50 a month that was left over from his disability check, and he had nothing to show for the little bit of money he was getting. We helped him with housing, food, worked the 12 steps, went through budgeting skills. He now has over $500 in his savings account. He is our house leader of the men's home that we opened last month, and he is doing well, been 9 months sober now. And we have a list of other people that we have helped, not just with housing. There's so much more to recovery than just abstinence from drugs and alcohol. It is helping people become responsible individuals, meeting their needs where they're at, because everyone comes in at a different recovery level, maturity level, and needs level. So we're glad to be able to help these individuals in Adams County get the services they need and finally be able to offer recovery housing here in Adams County. With that, we just wanted to come today and mention that there is an opportunity, Kevin will talk more about, through FHL Bank, which is Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis, where they help support communities and housing initiatives. And each year, FHL Bank partners with local not-for-profit housing providers and housing developers to compete for the AHP grants for up to $1 million. So these grants help fund the acquisition, construction, and rehabilitation of properties to use for people, in our case, would be coming out of treatment, homelessness, incarceration, or just living at a poverty level or below poverty level. So we're here again to discuss county-owned land next to the Adams County Jail, and I'll turn it over to Kevin to kind of present what we were thinking, and we're just here to present the idea, proposal, and from there today.
Morning.
Morning. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yep.
And it's been quite an interesting journey here over the past year as a board member for Crossroads community to kind of really see the level of support in this community for this type of an initiative. And to date, how much have we raised in total?
Collectively, over $200,000.
As a startup not-for-profit with no previous history, I find that pretty remarkable as a board member of other not-for-profit boards in the community. So it really just shows, I think, how great the need is and is recognized by the community to help people recover and to become whole and to become productive individuals in the community. And I think that's what this is really about. And so we have a really unique opportunity. We also have challenges. And I'll first talk about the challenges that we face and we have faced. And that is something I think we talked about when we were here about a year ago is the stigma around the population of people that we serve. You have this outpouring of people in the community that say, I have family members, I have loved ones, I have kids, I have aunts and uncles that desperately need this service. But then you ask if we could put a facility in their lot next door to them. They say, wait a minute, like, I'm not sure about that. Like, I know my family member really needs help, but I don't know who else is going to be in that home, and is that going to be a safety concern? And so the not in my backyard concern is always present. And And I know that very well from the work that I do just around affordable housing, let alone affordable housing that is serving a population like this, that as Renee mentioned, all the good work that we're doing in the community. We ran into this head on down in Bern as we tried to secure a property that, in my opinion, would have been about perfect. It was a home right on Highway 27, had some good, it recently been renovated. It was just perfectly set up for our needs. And when we went to commission to seek for it, getting a special approval, we were met with great, let me rephrase that. We were met with opposition. We had a completely packed room. And I would say at least half, if not more, of the people there were there to speak in favor of and support of our initiative. But the people that had the voice first were the people that were in opposition, and it immediately just put everybody on the defensive. And so that did not move forward. Unfortunately, now we've been fortunate enough to have some other opportunities arise where we have started what we really set out to do, which is around residential housing for this population. So as Renee mentioned, we have an opportunity in front of us through the Federal Home Loan Bank, which provides one round of funding, and they receive applications. Those applications this year are due at the end of June. And we've been in touch with them to make sure that our program would be compliant. And they said, absolutely, this is, right on par with the type of people that we want to serve. And it's up to $1 million, cannot exceed 70% of the construction costs for funding of a facility. So we are absolutely going to head down the path of engaging and fill out an application. The big issue that we need to solve first, though, is site control, and where are we going to locate a property like this? When we came before the commission and the commissioners last year, it was for a big funding request in addition to some site control. And the message we heard loud and clear is, first, we kind of need to see you be operational. You're just a true startup. We feel that we have accomplished that. We've been serving folks in the community. We've raised an incredible amount of support and funding in the community. And now to take that next step, we really need to find a site that we can submit with this application that would allow us to, under new construction, build from the ground up a facility specifically to address our needs and be customized to how Renee is kind of instructing us that we need to build this facility. So we have some plans that we've kind of sketched up. We haven't done a lot of due diligence around this yet because the first thing we need to solve would be the site control on where this will go. And so what we would like to first feel out from the commission is the possibility of making available property by the jail that the county currently owns. And we would like to propose that in the form of a long-term lease, which would be sufficient for our needs. It would, I think, be appealing to the county in the sense that this isn't a gift or a sale of outright property and you've lost control of that property, but a long-term lease would be sufficient for us to seek this funding. And then we would be able to build appropriately to the demand that we currently have and the funding that's available, but with the option of being able to expand those services as more funding becomes available and as the demand is shown. And I don't think the demand's an issue. I think the demand is far exceeds any of the funding that we have.
Is the project that you're looking at similar to what you showed us last year with the pods and the one central building with housing pods? Is it a similar project to that?
Stan, I think the answer is yes, but I want to flesh this out further with our architect to make sure that we're going to be able to utilize the funds as efficiently as possible. We might consolidate all of this activity just into one structure in the beginning to maximize the use of the dollars.
Gotcha.
Because the more structures we put out there, the higher the costs go in terms of design and also construction.
So would it be more efficient to build a building of your own rather than continue to look for housing through rental properties?
Absolutely, because rental properties, they only hold so many people. Even in purchasing, that's not to our advantage because usually or typically in year one, if you can hold 4 to 6 people in a normal household, well, you're already looking, how do you expand in your first year of acquiring said house? So building a scalable model, like Kevin mentioned, would be more beneficial to us because it would be cabin style, like we said, and we would start with probably 2 connected with an admin building between to provide 24-hour supervision for these homes. So we think it would definitely be more cost effective rather than purchasing a house that we will outgrow, and before expanding or building in the future, then we have to liquidate this or get out from underneath that long-term mortgage.
Would it be, make you or the board uneasy to spend money to build a building on somebody else's property?
Not if it's
If
secured.
it were a lease situation, then if anything were to end, you would have spent the money on a building, but we would still retain the property.
So great question, Stan. I think the way that this would need to be structured, when I speak of a long-term lease, it would have to be like a 99-year long-term lease.
Okay.
However, there would be provisions within that lease that if certain conditions weren't met or certain things were violated, then the lease can be terminated. So,
Okay.
so we would continue to have to hold to a standard at which we are serving the population that we've committed to, that is being used for that function. And again, we get some smart attorneys to help us draft
So
up that
the
agreement.
risk would be yours rather than
Correct.
ours.
And so-
We've got, as far as, when you talk about the land by the jail, we've got several things going on. One is we're in the process, we've had Brett Miller studying that property to do studies as far as floodplain zoning, what's buildable, what's not buildable, what our options are. So that's not finished yet. So we're kind of in the process of finding out what we have, you know, from a buildable standpoint. The other thing is we have to be careful, you know, with an organization such as yours that it has religious requirements for residents. So we just kind of have to consider and make sure, you know, how that fits together too. So there, you know, there's kind of 2 things that we would look at, you know, before, you know, we would want to move ahead with an arrangement. So it sounds like if you've got to have your application in by June, I don't know if that creates an urgency on your part or our part, or I don't know how that timeline looks.
I really feel we probably need to have site control, meaning an executed lease agreement.
Right.
Or if we're going to buy a piece of property somewhere, it'd have to be a purchase agreement executed around the 1st of June, so
Okay.
that we would know if we're going to lean into an application there. I mean, we're going to be starting now on assembling the information, but
Yeah.
we really probably need to know around the 1st of June. There's a letter of intent, or a letter of notice, I think it's called, that we have to submit on June 6th to the Federal Home Loan Bank of our intent to submit an application at the end of the month.
Because I think Brett's pretty close as far as, you know, looking at the property itself. You know, he hasn't brought anything to us yet, but, you know, I think he's close on that. But as far as the considerations of what we can do and can't do with our property, that's something we kind of lean on Mark too. So I don't know if you got any thoughts on how that looks from,
I think we just need to get the evaluation and the report, that he's doing the planning for the development of that entire site. We need to get that back from him. That area was annexed to the city of Decatur, so zoning is going to be governed by Decatur. But yeah, we need to see what he says. Certainly location, there's considerable floodplain out there, so we got to watch that. And then consider jail expansion. Need to consider that. So yeah, there's a lot of, as far as location goes, there's a lot to consider. But
And could we include the fact, to say this respectfully, a lot of times we're described as being a religious organization, and we are not. We are a public charity. Yes, we're faith-based, but no one is forced to do anything in this program. They are not forced to go to the church we tell them to go to. We encourage them to go to a church of their choosing. If they would not go to church, I mean, we don't disqualify people on any kind of religious belief. They don't have to be saved or Christian to come into our program. We are recovery, housing, and helping people physically, financially, emotionally, mentally, and yes, some spiritually, but not faith-based does not always equal religious in the sense of that word, or proselytizing or forcing anybody to do anything. We are a public charity helping people in recovery.
but there definitely is biblical standards that, not only the clients are held to, but board members are held to. And so, there is that element that we have to consider for sure, as far as our ongoing dealings. So, that is an element for us, that we definitely are conscious of and want to do the right thing because, as I look back and, as long as I can remember that I've been involved, about 15 years anyway, the option of having a rehabilitation program and facility has always been something that Adams County needs. So we're looking for success here. We're looking for, the rehabilitation aspect to bring people, help them become productive and active and accomplish the things that they need to accomplish for sure. So we don't want to discourage that, but we do kind of have a couple things that we have to consider. Yes, Michelle.
Kevin and Renee, may I say something?
Yeah,
Hi,
sure.
I'm Dina Freed, also on the Crossroads Board. Something I think that's important to know, and if any of you know Wendy Davis, who was a judge in Fort Wayne, she has run the same type of court that Judge Conrad is putting in place. And she has statistics and shared at our fundraiser last year and will again this year, that the government has looked at and has focused on using faith-based programs because they are the most successful statistically in helping folks with these challenges. So the government is even leaning towards using faith-based because that has been the most successful.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think a faith-based program is.
And I think that's where
Is an
we're trying to
excellent-
say is that versus being religious, it's faith-based to try and help folks
Sure.
through their challenges.
Yeah. Michelle, did you have some?
I just had a question for Kevin and Renee. Have you guys ever considered rehabbing the old Mama School? As someone who's rehabbing the Merit Center and bringing life back into that, that's an excellent space, and that up to $1 million would go a long way into rehabbing an existing brick building that is on the skirts of town. I know it's not adjacent to the jail. I was just curious if you guys had considered that or looked into the old Monmouth building.
We haven't looked specifically at the Monmouth building. There are some other facilities that we've looked at that I would say are maybe somewhat comparable. And your comment of $1 million would go a long way. might be a little bit of an understatement because of the size and scale of that facility. And nor some other facilities we've considered are very large and robust, but not that we would be able to fully utilize that from day one. We might be able to grow into that, but then there's all the cost and burden of carrying the rest of that property in the interim. And yeah, that $1 million might renovate a portion of it for us to become operational, but then we have to think about the burden of the rest of that facility over time. And what we don't want to do is set ourselves up in a situation where we're setting ourselves up for failure, where we've taken on an albatross that's larger than kind of what we can carry. And just again, from kind of a contractor standpoint, operation from a developer standpoint, we'd like to design something that fits this need very specifically, instead of trying to take something over here and shape that into it. And so that's really what the board is kind of focused on. Let's design something very specific so we can give these people the absolute best opportunity to be successful, rather than trying to kind of put a square peg in a round hole. But with that being said, we understand there's facilities in the community that desperately do need another life. I wish we could solve that, but I think in this case, the best solution here with the funding source that's available to us is something new construction that we can build specifically for this. The other thing that I think I want to point out is that what we are going to construct here could actually have a second life. If for whatever reason, and Renee gets hit by a bus tomorrow, which hopefully that doesn't happen, or 2 years from now, after we become operational, we've just spent $1 million on a facility on county property, that the design, and we're happy to kind of share some of the designs that we come up with around residential. I think they have a better reuse later than something like maybe an educational institution. So again, we want to be cognizant of that we always want to have a plan B. I want to put myself in your shoes. What is that plan B if this doesn't succeed? And what could that be in the future? So I also just want to, also state as a board member, we are very cognizant of the dynamic around being a faith-based organization, not a religious organization. And just to the same extent that when we walked in this room and we bowed our head in prayer, to start this meeting, someone could opt out of that and still attend this meeting and be present. And the same as for our organization, this is something that we choose to identify ourselves around, but that doesn't mean that they can't participate, just like people can continue to participate here with the county and not believe in a specific religious organization, but still have faith and, have higher direction, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point for sure. Gentlemen,
How much,
what's your thought?
how much grant are you looking for ideally?
So I have a little drawing that Brett actually sketched up for us about a year ago that showed this kind of campus environment. Did you see a copy of that before?
I remember seeing
I
a
think
copy
maybe
of
I
the
have seen
pod
that,
style.
Yeah, it's
Campus,
just,
yeah.
it shows a little carve out off the, I can hand these out if you
Yeah.
like, but this little quick design sketch that he provided for us about a year ago was 3.3 acres. And so that included enough space for adequate parking, on-site water detention to serve, let's see, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I think we had 10 cabins.
And each hold 6 to 8 people. Cabin would hold 8.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we felt would be a full build out. So nothing greater than that. And again, if it's under a lease arrangement, what we want to be careful is not to just be granted a lease on 4/10 of an acre where we can fit one unit. And then
Right.
down the road, there's a new commission in front of us and we try to come back to expand and then we don't have that
Right.
option.
Yep.
So we want to kind of try to think in the future, how much would we need? And so,
Sure.
So less than 5 acres for sure.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think more than 3.5 acres
Yeah.
would probably be
Yeah.
necessary.
That's my only question.
All right, that was, they took the question right away from me. I was curious how many acres he needed.
Well, I think that's definitely something that we can consider because, like I said, you know, we've waited a long time for a successful rehabilitation program. You know, because I've got a good friend that's in the jail ministry, and, you know, a lot of times, he's got no place to take people once they get out of jail. He'll take them to Indy, he'll take them to Fort Wayne Rescue Mission. You know, they're just, so, you know, that's one of the things that we're lacking. So, you know, we're obviously not trying to discourage what the mission of your board for sure. So, but yeah, if we've got just a little bit of time, I think we need to consider this. And I appreciate you explaining your goals and your missions and your.
So I think just to be clear, our formal request would be the consideration by the commission to enter into a long-term lease of acreage appropriate for the development size that we discussed. That would be really at no cost to the not-for-profit. That value then can help us with our application as support dollars. There's a certain amount of match.
So you're looking for a lease at no cost then? Is what you're looking for.
Yeah. So then that makes up part of your match or your
It does.
in-kind contribution or whatever.
We would
Okay.
get a formal valuation of what that lease is worth. That would be a monetized amount in the application of how much the contribution is by the county to the application.
Where's the application actually going? I guess, you said Federal Home Loan Bank, but what sort of funds are involved in the loan?
So the federal, it's a grant, not a loan.
Okay,
And the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis is the bank that we would work with.
They
to make
administer the grant?
Yes, they do. And then there's a local partner too, I think Bank of Bern.
We'd be working with First Bank of Bern.
First Bank of Bern. They would actually be the affiliate that we would work with to make the submission to the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis.
And since 1990, FHL Bank has awarded more than $283 million to create and rehabilitate housing in Indiana. So.
so it's a grant. Where are the grant funds coming from? Are they state or federal or a combination?
They're coming from the Federal Home Loan Bank, which is it's not a government institution, but in terms of the compliance, it's one of the lightest programs that we've ever utilized around, you know, there's no income verification. Doesn't have to be, you know, designated affordable. It can be, but there's no income verification around that. There's very few quote unquote strings attached. There's some monitoring and reporting that we have to do on an ongoing basis for I think 5 years. But beyond that, it's a pretty easy program to access. And it's
So even though it's a Federal Home Loan Bank, that doesn't necessarily mean it's federal money.
correct.
That's just the name of their bank.
Correct.
Okay. Interesting.
They're an agency or what's the, Federal Home Loan, or Bank of Bern is a member of the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis.
Correct.
And does business as a correspondent bank with Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis. I'm not exactly sure what their government
They're getting money from
situation
somewhere.
is.
If they've
Yeah,
given
yeah,
out
yeah,
$280 million in grants, they're getting money from somewhere.
Well,
Yeah.
and I don't know this factually, but the funding source that goes into the Federal Home Loan Bank is, I believe, through lending institutions. For every housing transaction that a lender makes, there's a small portion of money that goes and funds the Federal Home Loan Bank to support housing for underserved.
Yeah, there's a requirement that we all in the banking business, we all have to live by something called the Community Reinvestment Act. And Community Reinvestment Act requires banks, and I assume Federal Home Loan Banks and correspondent banks, to invest certain amounts of money in qualifying loans and grants to fund underserved housing needs. And this is probably a part of their meets part of their CRE requirement.
Yeah.
Like a bank checkoff program. Interesting.
We're fortunate because last year the maximum grant amount was 600,000, and this year they've raised it to $1 million in recognition of all the escalation of costs here the past year or two. But as I mentioned before, that can only be 75% of the total construction cost. So there needs to be some other matching dollars that come in alongside that, and we could use the lease as part of that match.
As an income contribution, yeah. Well, if you'll give us just a little bit of time to consider that, and, you know, as we get, you know, some of our final information from Brett, and, you know, talk to Mark some more too, and make sure, you know, what our place needs to be, that way. You know, I personally, you know, I wish for this program to succeed. And, you know, I know Judge Conrad is using his court and using this program as an alternative sentencing program. So, you know, I know that's a good option for him to have.
Well, thank you very much
Yeah.
for your time. And in
So
closing, there's just one last piece of information we'd like to leave you with, which is the date of our fundraiser.
Oh, yeah. April 27th. It's a Saturday here at the Riverside Center in Decatur. We'd love for everyone who is interested. We will have our second annual benefit dinner fundraiser, and Judge Wendy Davis will be our keynote speaker once again.
All right.
And if you don't mind, I'll have Renee follow up with an email invitation to that
Sure.
to you all if you'd like to attend.
Yeah.
Guys.
What time, Renee? What time of day?
6 o'clock until 8 o'clock. Yep. Thank you,
All
gentlemen.
right.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming in. Yep.
Here's Jim.
Yeah.
We'll give you the ones.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
301.
All right. I'll tell you what, Mike, were you gonna speak to? Okay, if we can kind of keep it brief, that way we can get Mark's report in. Are you okay with that if I bring him up first? Okay. So. All right.
Stan, I'm sorry. I think one other thing, she's reminded me
Yeah.
of our request would be contingent on us receiving federal home bank loan. So if we got the lease agreement put together and we didn't receive the funding, it would nullify the lease. So I just want to make sure.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Yeah, Mike, last week we talked about the, I got the wrong paper. The Microsoft volume licensing.
That's the only thing I wanted to bring in today.
And I know you were able to kind of go through some of the options on all of them. And so the one that you're looking at is the subscription model, which would add a domain controller to Microsoft Cloud along with local domain controllers within each domain to improve password management for $115,755.65. So.
Mike, does that subscription arrangement obligate us to higher costs annually than what a non-subscription agreement would? For instance, the alternative was a $95,000 option that would not be the subscription agreement. I just want to make sure that $95,000 per year is comparable to the $115,000 per year. Is that kind of what we're looking at? So those are, it's not like one's every year and one's every 5 years type of deal.
They're every year.
Okay, that's what I thought.
All three options are every year.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. And,
But you said at some point we're gonna have to move to this, whether we do it.
well, yeah, that's what they're talking about. It's gonna be there because they're just not gonna fix some of the things that we're
back when people, like I tried to describe last week, you know, the password management, having all your information siloed and that sort of stuff. They're just not going to fix that.
Well, Microsoft's business model is to move us all to this subscription model, so they're gonna get us there one way or the other. That's the reason I support just going ahead and making the move now.
Well, one of the things you talked about, because anything we do, it's not just us anymore, it's everybody else too. But one of the things you talk about with having the parent-child relationship with the other agencies that are on our network, it makes it easier to handle and manipulate those relationships with those entities, whether it's Decatur Police, Decatur Fire, Geneva, whoever. So, you know, to me, it makes sense with the network that you have built, that we have built, you know, to move to this model. So.
Yeah, it's,
3-year commitment, like.
yeah, this is a 3-year contract with that being the per year cost. We pay it every year.
The 115.
Yeah, so I mean, the 3-year contract would be 3 times that 115, but we're just paying per year what that would be. So that's what we're signing up for. If you commit for 3 years, they lower the price, and all these options are a 3-year contract, where we pay that amount per year.
Is the 115 the lowered price, or would it? I mean, if we sign up for 3 years, it wouldn't get any lower than.
No, that is a 3-year cost.
Okay. Yeah. Any thoughts, Mark, on a 3-year agreement like that?
I think, well, when you have multiple agreements, you don't have funds appropriated in a current budget stretching out for years. You have to appropriate the necessary funds for each year. And so I think as long as you got a county council meeting next week, maybe get that on the agenda. And I would want county council to at least say, yes, we will budget that amount for the next 3 years. And then when it comes time, then they'll appropriate it. I don't think they have to do any additional appropriation now. I think they need to commit to funding it through appropriation, because once you sign the agreement, you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
So as long as,
Mike, as I recall, you've got $100,000 built into your budget now to cover this expense.
Yeah.
So we're looking at an additional $15,000 to get us where you think we need to go per year over the budgeted amount.
and it sounds like it would just be moving money, you know, or like you mentioned, you got money coming in from the interlocal agreements that maybe you
Yeah,
can
we're
move over.
gonna have money from that always comes in, and I kind of said what that's been like. When we move to this, actually, we're gonna have to charge those agreements. You know, because now that's gone up, that's part of it, you know.
Yeah, so we'll have to get those agreements updated and get them out, get them signed.
Would the commissioners need to approve one of these on their behalf and then it goes to council for their appropriation, or?
I think the commissioners can approve signing, approve entering into the 3-year agreement for this, this cost for this contract, subject to, agreement by the county council to budget that amount.
Is that what you gentlemen want to do?
Steve, what do you think?
The security difference between the 116 and the 74 on a 3-year, do we need that today?
What we can't get by with what the 74 was before. It's like 87 is what it's going, that's the low. The 87,612 is the amount that we're going to have to go to, because we can't do it from the 74.
Okay, but
We're not-
would the 86,400 cover us for the 3 years, or do we need to go to that 116?
We just won't have some functions that we're probably going to have.
Do we need them or we want them?
Well, we kind of need them because of the things that we're doing with WebEx, Teams, remote meetings, people trying to do some of that stuff. We're either going to pay it one way or the other to have our people to be able to legitimately use that stuff that we put in with WebEx. So we're, we can have a front end where we have a WebEx front end, and we try and get people to use that, more of our people. Then we're gonna have WebEx clients, which are gonna be at the cost of $30-some a month. Times however many that we want there, or we can go with Teams to be the front end for the meetings. And we got that to work with the WebEx equipment. So we can either get that done through this way or the other way, but we're gonna have to add that cost in. So that's where we're at. If we stay with just, without the Teams part of it in there, with just the 7,000, then we're gonna have to pay more for WebEx to try and get that front end part to work with our departments, what we have there. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but right now we're just running on the bare minimum with WebEx with clients.
And then we're at the 86. Or you say we're running at the bare minimum?
We're gonna have to start putting more users on the WebEx client if we really want to start doing some more with WebEx and the training and so on that we're going to put forward. So that's going to be at $30 a month, particular user.
How many users are we gonna have a month?
Well, if we got here, let me see if I can find it, what I put in for that. That's, there it is. Gonna have to do like 225 is what, when we take in everything across the county with what we're gonna do with that. So it's gonna go from 20 some that we have with just the department heads right now, are the only ones that can do and schedule and work with it, to going to 225 with it. So it's we're gonna be into some serious money now. When we go that much, then I can negotiate down the price of WebEx too. So, I mean, that's currently what we're paying with just a few people. So
We're into some serious money at 116 a year for 3 years for something I don't know if we need right now or if we want right now. And that's my problem.
Yeah, and we need it right now for just the password issues that we're having with people that, every time that we go through password changes and so on, you guys experience it. We're the ones who have to maneuver with that whole thing. We got frustrated users and policemen that can't always get into stuff that they need to, and especially out in the cities. They call us up and we have to come and get them out of the hole. We have to work with them. Sometimes it's on the weekends, but most of the time it's on the weekends. So.
Well, that's just my main concern.
Just doing the math, quick math, if we had 100 users at the $30 a month, that's $36,000. That's the difference between the cheapest number and the highest number is less than $36,000. So just in that particular feature alone, and even if we only had 100 new users, not getting you all the way up to the 225, that pays the bill for what we're talking for the upgrade. And I mean, I just know that even though we don't use it this way today, in the business world, Teams is the way people communicate, not by email anymore. They communicate by Teams. And so everybody has Teams on their desktop. Everybody opens Teams. I open Teams in the morning when I go to the bank and go to work. Teams becomes the way that we communicate versus email and other things. So I think it's expensive. Microsoft has us in a corner, but it's the way business is being done today.
Right now, just to give you an idea, our phone systems are constantly on that. And it has nothing to do with our stuff. It's all with SIP trunks going down. SIP trunks is kind of old technology.
Wow, I haven't heard that term in
years. But you have to have it with phone system. Those are essential. You have to do it. What people are going to is they're putting the phone systems out into bigger places. Like, you know, you can have them with Cisco or these other places. They take care of their SIP trunk issues, because if you actually have phone systems, we just need to communicate up to them, and we don't have to own the SIP trunks. I can tell you that our phone system, especially, wasn't long ago. It was like several times a month it was down, and down for a long period of time.
Is this going to have anything to do with our phone system?
Yes, yes, because that's what people are moving to. If you look inside of Teams or inside of WebEx, there is a phone component that's already built into it. So your PC, your cell phones, tablets, when you take them home, you can have your office phone with it. And we don't have to have really the phone system in-house anymore. It'll be up in the cloud, and we're putting the network in place where that's going to facilitate that whole thing. But you have to have the clients involved before you can use that. That's this license that allows you to use that as a phone component as well. And I can see coming up, I mean, we keep having trouble because I got to have uptime just from dispatch. Dispatch gets their 911 calls in through one set of circuits. But then they can't use those same incoming lines for 911 to make calls out to policemen or whoever, to firemen or anything. So they have to use our internal phone system, and then those have to be recorded. There has to be calls recorded coming in from 911, and then the replies back out have to be, and our phone systems have to stay up. If they're using if the dispatch has to use their cell phones because our phone system's down, now they're not being reported. And so there's things more deeply involved with this whole thing, but I think this is a smart move for us to go ahead with that. And then when we get to the point, which probably next year, I'm going to recommend that we try and switch the phone system out, because we have these issues. And it was, Steve, it was like that everywhere I worked with these phone systems that were done back in the 2000s. SIP trunks go down constantly, and you have no control over it. They're all, you know, our SIP trunks, you know where the phone system is actually setting? It's probably like Chicago.
Okay.
And those SIP trunks have to make their way to Chicago to get that stuff done. And anything can happen through the network that can take those down. And so that's the best way that I can explain it.
So if we pass this 116 today, because I'm feeling that's what Stan and Steve are interested in doing. So if we pass this 116 today, when does that take effect?
As soon as I turn in the PO.
So when will that change our system? Just as soon as you turn in the PO?
I'll have to be doing some installs and things that we're passing with .gov and so on, all these things. I can start to work on that process now because licensing has changed. And so I can work with that change in the license.
Okay, so when we start our change in license, say we pass this 116, give it to you today for 3 years, 116. How long is it going to take you to get this up and running so we have it in use, would you say?
Maybe a month or so.
Months. Okay.
Steve, I feel your concern. It feels like there's this big black hole out here that we keep throwing money in, and we call it IT, that the dang costs just keep going up and up and up. And, you know, I don't know how to get my arms around it, Mike. I just, to a certain point, we just have to trust you, to trust that you're doing this with an eye towards we're spending taxpayer dollars and we're getting the best bang for our buck, and we're doing it the best way we can. But the one thing I do appreciate about you, Mike, and that is that you're trying to do this the right way for us. And I know that we have counties, other counties in the state of Indiana that aren't as invested in doing things the right way. And so when I compare our IT costs, for instance, to what's going on in other counties, it's like, why are we spending so much money? To a certain extent, though, we just have to trust you, to trust that you're our expert. You're the guy that's telling us we need to spend this. When Steve asked the great question, is this a want or is it a need? Try to balance those wants with those needs and spend our taxpayer dollars on needs only so that we get the best utilization. But we have to do it the right way. We have to do it in a way that protects us from cyber criminals, delivers services to our employees and everybody that's associated with our system in a way that they can be effective and efficient and their uptime is good. And that's a tough balancing act. And I have to trust that you're our eyes and our ears and our brains when it comes to making this stuff all work and we get the taxpayers get the best value for their money. And we aren't just keep throwing money at this thing like it's a big black hole, because the taxpayers have a limited amount of money that they're going to let us play with here and let us spend. But to a certain extent, I mean, you and I have had discussions before and pushed back and forth, but we have to trust you, and that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, there's, I wish we could take everything back to what it was before COVID, because that really just changed so much. Like when I said, before that happened, we were pretty much siloed, and that past licensing worked okay because we didn't have many people with mobile computing at the time, and then when that came in, it was going to be problems, because now we're not siloed anymore. Now you can go anywhere in the world, and I got to make secure communication back inside of us, Well, now if I pick up this other one, the 95.8, we don't have secure communication up to Microsoft. Part of the 115 is encrypted information because we got domain controller up there. And for our people, everything we have to have that line of traffic is communicating up to them that's encrypted. And so that adds a cost to it.
It's not that I'm not saying that I didn't trust what you're telling us, but I just wanted to ask a few questions.
You're doing your job, and that's what
I appreciate your.
Are you gentlemen ready to take action?
I am.
Okay, I'd be open to a motion on what you want to do.
I'd make a motion that we support the movement of our Microsoft licensing to the subscription model. And the option is $115,755.65 per year for the next 3 years. Again, pending council approval. Council obviously has to approve this funding, but I make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'll vote in favor of that also. All right, thank you, Mike. We'll see what council says next week. Make sure and get on their agenda.
I asked Bree to put you on the agenda, but I have a question maybe Mark can help me with. This 115,755, you've got 100,000 budgeted. If you found the other 15,755.65 from another place that you can transfer it, then you're within your budget. So is what council plans to hear and consider approval of the system for that amount for each of the 3 years? Because he can budget the 115,755.65 after this year for the next 2 years. Does that make sense? I'm wondering are they approving what the commissioner just did as far as, yes, that system is what we want?
Yeah, they're approving the 3-year contract for those services, for those products, subject to any necessary council approval. Let's figure out what that is. I
Okay.
don't know yet.
Because I think he can probably, if he's got 100,000 budgeted and he uses that and transfers the rest, then you usually don't have a problem with transfer. And then in your next upcoming budgets, you would put the full amount.
Yeah, I just put.
Right, but he's still gotta get the commitment from council for 3 years.
Well, because when he puts it in his budget, that budget still has to be approved.
Approved by the council.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to just, have the council say, yes, we'll approve that.
It's
Might as well
a
get
big
the-
number not to run by council.
Yeah.
You might as well get the 3-year commitment from council. That way at budget time, next 2 years, you won't have to discuss it because they will have already approved it for 3 years. I'm just trying to wrap my head around what our office needs to do.
What council needs to approve.
Right. I think it's really communicating to council and then, making sure that they're not going to take issue with approving that when he submits his budget.
And actually, you already sent this out to council, I think, didn't you? So they know these options.
I haven't sent it to council, but I put it to.
Oh, there's a couple of council members.
Guys.
Okay.
Put it to Rex,
Okay.
Brad, John.
All right, we'll just discuss it at council and go from there.
The only other thing I wanted to share, you had brought up Archive Social. Is that anything you want to talk about today or anything while Mike's here, or what's your thoughts on that?
Archive Social is the retention of social media. I have 2 social media platforms. Health Department has one. I purchased it using Commissary.
Okay.
Because we're getting a 15% discount if I could do this in a timely manner. So I did it. So in a way, we'll try it for a year, and if it works, great, then we can put it into other parts of the budget or something like that. But when that comes through, I'll give it to the Health Department and EMA, because they also run Facebook, and we will put that so they're being covered. So and if there's any other county public websites, this will cover them also, because it goes up to, I think, 25 accounts.
Okay.
So we have room to expand. But
Is that something that Ethan needs to know about?
I've included him on the emails and stuff like that. I just did the paperwork yesterday, so he's included on it. Basically, it's all web-based. It really has nothing to do with Insider Network or anything like that. But the chances of me getting a request are getting higher and higher. And if I don't have a way to back it up, for some reason, post gets taken down or things like that, and I can't reproduce it, then we're gonna be in trouble. So
Okay.
I did do that, and I'm covering the expense for the first year. And like I said, if it goes well, then we can deal with it. But it's worth me paying for it now due to the fact that I know I'm covered.
All right, thank you. All right, Mark, did you have anything for us?
Yep.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
It's a lien assist program master agreement between Adams County and SRI. SRI provides services for our annual tax sales. This is additional service that they offer to help. We need to file liens to collect delinquencies or delinquent taxes that aren't necessarily from tax sales, but other liens. And it's a service that I think Brooke has talked to your office about this, and
And Community Corrections and Probation use that also.
I think
Or maybe this includes that.
could be, well, this was between SRI and Adams County. We've got a separate one between SRI and the Adams County Regional Sewer District that they need to approve, but it's in order to help collect these liens and then file the releases. And there's just a lot of administrative work, and the service that they offer it's at a reasonable cost. It's $5 per transaction or processing, and then that $5 is added to the lien collection. So it's not paid by the county, but it is we pay it up front, and then when the lien's collected, it gets paid. So anyway, I think I've reviewed the agreement. It's fine. It's a 1-year agreement. After the first 90 days, either party can terminate with 30 days notice. So it's not like we're in this thing indefinitely. And so I'd make a recommendation that we approve the Lien Assist Program Master Agreement between SRI and Adams County. Just need a motion to that effect. So move.
Second.
All right.
And then we'll get that signed. And then Tony, I've got the email here from, I think it's, what's his name?
Jason Puckett.
Jason. And then you can send it back to him.
Okay.
So today's the 2nd. And then there's also a separate, there's 2 things. It's the Lien Assist. Yeah. It's the master agreement. And then there's the addendum that is specifically for these lien services. And this is between SRI and Adams County. And this is just an addendum to this agreement. It includes the services. So the motion that you have to approve it would cover both of these agreements. Yeah, this has the $5 service fee in it. This is the master agreement that says they're going to provide the services, and then the addendum is it's the $5 fee. So did they already approve that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll just get this dated and get this signed here after the meeting. And then the last thing, we just got a notice from Baker and Tilly, They're apparently reorganizing. The name is going to change, and they just want us to acknowledge that. We acknowledge that we'll honor our contracts that we have with Baker Tilly as they are assigned to the new entity that they're going to reorganize as. It looks like it's going to be, it's a restructuring that they're doing. So I can't even tell what their new name is going to be. Just need a motion to, I guess, acknowledge that we received that. So move.
Second.
All right, motion carries.
And that's, Clayton, you got anything?
No.
Okay. I know we've
Mark,
got,
I do have a question. Earlier, I looked at the resolution history and we were ready for number 4, which is what Michelle put on that resolution she did. However, looking at my last week's minutes, you had reserved number 4 for the unsafe building ordinance. They were going to have further discussion
so
on.
that should be number 5.
So do we want to wait and make number 5 the unsafe building one and leave Michelle's the way it is? Or do they need to make another motion to make Michelle's number 5?
Yeah, no, I would, number 4 has already been introduced, so I would just have a motion to approve.
So whenever you do the unsafe building, it
Yeah.
will then be that new number.
No, unsafe building is still 4.
Okay, so,
Because it's been introduced.
okay, so if we can make a motion to have the resolution that Michelle did
Correct.
changed to 2024-5.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Steve Bailey brought up a good point earlier, that since it will be the Board of Zoning Appeals that would be overseeing and taking care of any enforcement on the unsafe buildings ordinance, whether they should look at that first and then bring it to us.
Yeah, I think we need to take another look at it together.
So, and I don't know when the next meeting is of the BZA.
BZA is listed as the hearing authority in the,
It's
in
the
that.
third Thursday of the month, so that'd be the third Thursday of this month.
I want to make sure they reviewed it, that they're willing to be the hearing authority on it, that they approve it. Mark Wynn and I have had extensive discussions on it recently, and Mark's pretty supportive of it as written. I'm a little concerned that it's going to be difficult to enforce and pretty wide-ranging, but I think maybe it would just be my preference just to kick this back to the BZA and make sure that BZA is all in on an ordinance like this and then bring it back to us after the BZA has signed off on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Shannon, do you have anything for us?
Not.
All right.
Sheriff does.
Don't do that.
All right, Sheriff? Oh, I'm sorry, I almost overlooked you again.
Just want our friends of the newspaper here, we all know something's happening Monday, right? Yes. And the weather they're calling for is very favorable for Monday's forecast. So I just want people to know the issues we're gonna have just overcrowding. People need to spend extra time, be patient, especially afterwards, because we're gonna have people coming in a couple days ahead of time, more than likely. But everybody's gonna wanna leave when it's over. And at overtime, we're talking about 4:30, sun should be back to normal and everything's normal and everybody's wanna go home. And that's where I expect us to have problems. Our roads are gonna be overcrowded, tempers are gonna be flaring. Just, I encourage patience, and don't be in a rush. That's where we're gonna have issues. The staff is going to try and get people out of the area in the safest manner as we can by using our major roadways, getting them to other major roadways, and getting people home. I expect our area, we're gonna be getting a lot of north and northwest people, Chicago, Michigan, all those people are gonna come here because we're the closest point for totality. We're gonna have a lot of people unknown in the area. We're gonna have people probably getting lost, not knowing where they're going. So again, I just want you to encourage everybody to use patience. We have information boards out. EMA's been doing a great job. We got stuff lined up with local radio stations. We have several marquee boards that's gonna be posting where to get information on. But again, if what they tell us is gonna be true, our normal population of this county is 36,000. They expect 36,000 more people here. Double our population is what they're saying could happen. And as right now with how the weather is, mostly sunny and almost 70 degrees, we're probably gonna get that. So I'll be putting some out again, but need your guys' help to put that message out to everybody. Just be patient, be patient, be patient. For local people, we have some things going on here, do that, but don't be in a rush to get home. I'm gonna walk. There you go. Our roads are gonna be full. There's no doubt about that. We only have a capacity of so much. There's nothing we can do about that. So like I said, just please print that out, that just be patient, know where you're going, make sure you have plenty of gas, make sure you got snacks, water, because what has happened in the past, the restaurants, the fast food, the gas, they ran out of food, they ran out of gas. So we've encouraged our local businesses to this Friday, make sure they get restocked, top off the fuel tanks, top off supplies, maybe order some extra food in for the weekend. It could be that busy.
At the bank, we've talked about topping off the ATMs, make
Yep.
sure the ATMs are full. So
Yep.
it's just,
Is there any, security risks or anything?
We've never, the intelligence doesn't have that. We didn't see a spike, Tennessee didn't see a spike in crimes or burglaries or anything like that. It's just a massive amount of people. That was the issue. But like I said, banks doing that, our schools are closed, so we're gonna have kids out and about. EMA's been passing out, we have so many people coming into the sheriff's office picking up glasses, the clerk's office, a lot of our county officers have been supplying glasses to people. My deputies will have glasses out on the road this weekend to where people need some, we can hopefully give them some until the supplies last. We have all the schools covered, every child in school in this county will be given glasses who wanted them. So,
There won't be a huge demand for glasses until about 2:55 PM on
correct,
Monday.
correct. And again, if you guys can stress, if you look at the sun during this event long enough, the damage to your eye will not be known until the next day. You will wake up the next day and there'll be a black dot in the center of your vision and you'll have it the rest of your life. It's uncorrectable. There will be no pain to it, no itchiness, no burning like a welder's eye. It gives you some warning properties. This does not. If you look at long enough, you can do permanent damage to your eye. And that has come straight from our eye doctors in the area. So do not look directly at the sun. I can't stress that more enough. So I just want to put that out while we have them here. I'll be putting this out to the media probably later today or tomorrow. But we just have to stress patience and don't be in a rush.
You know, one of the things that came out at the meeting last week, Justin has put together some interviews like with the optometrist and stuff. I think that's on the Belmont website, isn't it? Or North Adams. Yeah, he had some real nice information that he put up on there.
Yeah, I've been in contact with Dr. Bixler and stuff like that, and it's just, once the damage is done, it's done. And the dot depends on how long you stared. If you stare really long, you have a real big dot. Stare just, you might have a little tiny dot, but it's there for the rest of your life.
Do you know anything at all about taking pictures?
They say, with your smartphone, stuff like that, if you hold your glasses up to the lens and take it through your actual glasses lens over your camera lens, you can do it. You can buy some real nice camera lenses that have the filters for that, but a standard regular picture, it's just be whited out. Go through your sunglasses lens or your solar lenses, and you should be able to take some nice pictures, what I've been told.
Could you lay a mirror on the ground and get a picture in the mirror of the sun, looking that way?
I have no idea.
Could that be done?
I don't know. I remember when I was a little kid, you had a box, and you put a little hole in, you had a piece of white paper, and across, you could see it on the paper. But you don't want to make contact with that sun with your eyes.
EMA office, I understand, is gonna be the headquarters, and they're gonna be open all night Sunday night, is that correct?
If need be. The EOC is opening up, I believe, Saturday. The state EOC is also opening up Saturday. And how it's manned just depends on what the needs are. But the sheriff's office obviously is open 24/7. We'll be there to help anything we can.
State guys outside meeting told us not to get on them that day. They said,
That's correct. They're gonna be out on the interstates.
well, they're all that, also they gotta go down to Indy. They're expecting 250,000 people to Speedway. So
Yep, NASA's gonna be telecasting from the Speedway. I used it in the football stadium. I mean, it's big. So, and the weather sounds like it's gonna cooperate. That means it will be big.
Rick McCoy and I were talking, the weather, so in the last 24 hours, almost by the hour, the weather's looking better all.
Yep.
And same for Ohio, all the states, and it's about 8 states, right?
Correct. We don't expect a lot of traffic from the east because they're gonna watch it over in Ohio when it comes through their path. Ours is gonna come from Michigan, northeast, northwest, Chicago. Probably anybody who can drive 4 to 5 hours, they're gonna come to us. And then the bad thing is, they're gonna want to go.
This is for the paper jelly.
That's for the
It
problem.
just goes back, just
I'm
make
gonna
a
walk
copy
the
that goes back to them.
There you go.
There it is.
So that's all I have, and if you don't have questions for us, the staff, like I said, we are manned up and ready to have no days off. We're running double shifts, all hands on deck if need be. So we have plans in force for that.
Probably people from a distance have taken off work on Monday to come,
Yep.
but I expect to be back Tuesday morning.
Like I said, they're all gonna wanna go home afterwards, and it's done. Even when it's coming back to us, we should be back to full sun power, I think, by, before 4:30 at the latest. Takes about an hour and a half after it's
It's not that big a deal. It gets dark, it gets light again.
It's gonna start around 1:32, get dark.
It's happened billions of times, it's happened billions more times, in billions of years.
But people are gonna come watch it. So that's all I had.
Thank you, Sheriff, for all the preparation work you've done.
Hey, Dan.
today.
Are those, glasses that they handed out, are those the ones that those are safe?
Yes, those are the certified ones. We got our supply probably almost 6 months ago. Yeah. We got a grant from the Human Foundation. We ordered almost 2,000 glasses.
Who's got those, EMA or they're
EMA.
out at the jail?
Health department
And
has some
at
there
the
too.
jail.
Oh, health department?
About
I think
15,000
the treasurer
glasses.
still has some in his office.
And I think we have about 1,200 left.
Wow.
Everything's
People
signed
come
and he's
every 10 minutes. On our window at the counter, there's 10, 15 stacks of people's names on it.
Do you want a copy of this for it?
All right,
No, just.
yeah, I think,
Then I'll just keep
you
it
along
send
with
it
our
back to
emergency
Jason.
management agency and everybody else have surely shown themselves to be leaders in preparation for this.
Barb and Megan have done outstanding.
Yeah.
They have done an outstanding job.
All right, anything else from the general public? I just had a couple minor things. One of the things we talked about, at Golden Meadows, they're continuing to find more appropriate places for the residents out there, and so we just have a few people out there yet. One of the things that us as commissioners are gonna be looking at, within the next few months to the year or whatever, is the disposition of that building and property, and so we wanna be thinking about how that's gonna be handled and how we.
Soon as I get back up.
This is their,
The only other thing I had, I did attend my first, CMHC meeting last week up at Park Center. And, so that went very well, because Brooke's been, appreciates being up there to represent Adams.
Nathan.
Sure. I don't have anything else. Do you guys have anything else on?
I just give you guys a quick update on a couple of meetings I've had regarding countywide broadband.
Okay.
I spoke with an organization that's doing countywide broadband kind of in the southern end of Indiana, just to kind of educate myself on what they were doing and how it was working and so on and so forth. Since then, I've met with them again, and I understand that they have recently entered into agreement with Jay County and with Blackford County to provide broadband services, internet services to areas of those counties that are not currently served or are underserved with internet service. So that's just got my attention. That's pretty interesting, and I want to make sure we don't miss something here by being asleep at the switch. So if it's okay with you guys, there's a gentleman that used to head up the state's broadband office that lives in Brown County right now and is working to help counties and help folks in the state kind of understand where this is all at and where the money's at and how it gets funded. And there's a ton of grant money available right now. I would hate for that money to go away, and us, we have talked a little bit about it in the countywide vision group. And actually, I sent kind of an inquiry out to the folks that are on the steering committee, just as kind of a focus group to say, hey, what are you hearing? What do you know about broadband, and is there a need? And I get the sense that there is a need. I don't know that we know how big the need is. And I think that would be the first thing we would need to do, is kind of understand what the need is, if there is a need. But if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to reach out to this. His last name is Rudd. I forget what his first name is. And see if maybe we could set up a WebEx with him, and he could just kind of, at this point, I'm just ignorant on what's going on and what the need is and how it's being serviced and how much it would cost and all that stuff. I just don't know anything about it. I don't know enough about it.
Well, I guess two things that if you talk to him or if we talk to him, there's two things in my mind as we've discussed this and looked at it over the past several years. One is, obviously, we have a large portion of our population that's underserved with broadband because they don't want broadband. Another thing is to provide broadband to everybody in the county. It's not just an issue of money, it's an issue of functionality. And if you had all the world's money, you would still have to figure out, are we going to do it through fiber, through cable, through towers, through Starlink, through whatever. So there's a functionality there that I think is as bigger of a question than just how are you going to fund it. So
I guess my concern is Jay County is moving that direction. Blackford County is moving that direction. Are we missing something?
Well, and I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm not saying we shouldn't pursue it. I'm just saying those are two things that I think may be unique, or at least the one is unique to Adams County. The second one may not be unique to Adams County, but you run down 27 where, all the functionality is right there within a mile each way of 27. But you get out past that and then it's like, none of the cable companies want to run out there because there's no payback.
It's crazy.
The fiber companies don't. And then you have the issue of overbuilds to where, some of these companies could say, well, we've already got lines out there. You can't overbuild our lines and take our
Yeah.
customers away. So there's those types of restrictions too. So it's a bigger question than just dollars.
I know we've actually had in our meeting, it's been maybe a year or so ago now, an individual come in from north of Decatur in an area where I would assume had great internet service. It couldn't get it delivered. I don't know whether you remember that, I forget what his name was, but it's like, and I know that it's not just an issue that is a southern part of the county issue. There are folks, it's becoming much more than just delivery of entertainment. It's a business necessity for folks, and it's an educational necessity for folks. When I think about, Adams Central just had a day where they closed school down and had to do synchronous e-learning. And that requires a pretty strong internet connection for everybody to get online and be online real time with their teacher when the schools can't deliver the services. So I think it's a need that I know I don't understand. And I'm just, if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to reach out to this guy and see if we can figure out if he would be willing to just bring us up to speed on what he sees happening throughout the state.
I would think of is, I don't know that it's Adams County's government's responsibility to fund it, but if we can facilitate it, that's another thing too, as far as, is it the responsibility of government to fund broadband for everybody? But, as far as anything we can do to facilitate a better quality of life and economic development, I'm certainly not opposed to that. So.
Good. Very good. Well, I just kind of wanted to tell you guys what little I know about it so far and see if you were interested in learning more.
I mean, the guy sounds like a smart guy.
Yeah.
So.
Good deal.
Good. Steve, anything?
Nope.
All righty.
Is that it, Steve?
Anything?
All I have. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.